So our next part is this trailer hitch, and I do have kind of a fun thing at the end of this video just to show you a more advanced feature that they don't ask us to do, but just something that's advanced and kind of fun to think about and look at. So anyways, when we read through this, it says that in this assembly, they should be assembled in such a way that they're held in place while being able to spin. So in other words, the parts cannot translate, meaning they can't move like in and out or up and down, but they can freely spin, they can rotate in place. So this piece over here should be able to rotate in place. And then this ball should be able to rotate in place. There's a nut underneath that should be able to rotate in place. So we're going to go ahead and click Access Document and make a copy. I've already made a copy. And you notice kind of same thing that we've had before where we have all of these parts, but no assembly. So we're going to go ahead and just click the plus sign and create an assembly. And that'll make an assembly for us. So then we're going to go back and look at our instructions. And the first thing they ask us to do is change our workspace units to millimeters. Do make sure that you actually do that because this time they are in inches. So we really do have to do that. So go to our workspace units and let's change it over to millimeters. They wanted degree decimal of 2, and then grams decimal of 2. Okay, and so then from there, the next part of the instruction says create a new assembly and insert our 4 components. So I'm going to insert each of those components. Doesn't really matter where. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I like to place them kind of just away from each other. I know with the check mark. And me personally, I always like to fix, my base if I have a base. So I'm going to right click this guy and fix it. That way, this one's not moving on us. It's just locked in place. These are the ones that we're going to assemble to it. And so then it says to add mates and to these, like step 3, add mates to the 4 components so that they're assembled in this way. So those are our parts. Then it should look like this from the side view, like this from the top view. So we can see that this piece here, this latch piece, right, is 25 millimeters away from the edge. And then here is it in isometric view. So kind of coming back over here, I'm just going to do them one at a time. I'm going to do the latch first, since that was the one that was a little bit more complicated with that 25 millimeters business. And so what I did is I just did a cylinder mate, a cylindrical mate, and I went from this outer edge, right? Make sure you're clicking on the edge, not like the circle, but I'm on that edge. I want that outer edge to go through the center of this outer edge. So I'm clicking on the edges, but I want it spaced 25 millimeters away. Remember, it's not going to be on the end, but they wanted it 25 millimeters out. And so there are 2 ways I can do this. The first way, which is a little bit tougher, I can use having 2 of these. I can just do this first. And if I click on solve, let me go back to kind of an isometric view. If I click on my play, it's showing that it can rotate forwards and it can rotate and move, translationally forwards and backwards here. That's along that z-axis that they established there. So I could do that, and then right now, what happens is if I click and drag this, you'll notice that it does move forwards and backwards. So I could do a planar mate and say, hey, I want this side lined up with that side, but I want it to be offset by 25 millimeters. And this went backwards and went in, so I'm going to just change my direction to negative 25 millimeters. And then it places it out 25, and now I have this in place, and it's allowing me to rotate, and it's locked in. But there's actually an easier way to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that and get rid of my planar. And just within the cylindrical mate, okay, that's why we have these limits, right? So when I hit play, it's going forwards and backwards. I can specify how much I want it to be able to rotate or how much I want it to be able to translate, in and out. So I can say, hey, I only want it to go out by 25 and by 25, and then I can solve it. And then when I hit play, now it's out 25 and it's only rotating. Right, and just so you guys can see, like if I wanted it to go from 25 to 50, and I solve that. Now it's just allowing me to kind of go in just to a certain point and back out. And sometimes you want that too. In this case, though, we didn't. We wanted it locked at 25. Right. So I'll solve that. And now this only allows us to rotate right there in place. So if I click and drag on this guy, we can see that I'm able to rotate it, but it won't go in and out. Right. Next up, I'm going to do this ball. And so we want to kind of be thinking about what would this look like in real life. Right. So in real life, where would this stop? It would stop when this kind of washer hits the top edge. So I'm going to kind of pick those edges. So I'll do, this time I'm going to do a revolute me because I want it to revolve around that edge. So I'm going to pick this bottom edge, right? I kind of zoomed in, I picked that bottom edge. And then I want that to revolve with the top edge of this circle. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the top edge of that circle. Okay, now if I hit play, we see it spinning. Because it's circular, OnShape, we don't actually see it spinning when I drag it, but it is spinning. It's just that there's nothing there for us to see. Okay, but that is how it works. So, when I drag this, it is spinning. I did make one here that I'll show you guys in a minute where I just added my name to it. So we can, when I drag this, we can actually see, yes, it is spinning, even though the rest of it, it's hard to see. Yes, it is spinning. So this guy is spinning, we're good. Right, and again, if you want to test that, double click it, just hit play, and you'll see this axis down here is moving, it is spinning. Okay, so now I have those guys, and my last piece is my nut, and we want to get that nut on the bottom. So kind of same thing in real life, we want to think this nut, the bottom would go with this edge over here. So I'm going to do that same kind of thing. I'm going to pick my revolute me, and I want this top edge to be able to revolve around this kind of bottom edge here. And we have to make sure we're picking it right there, that bottom edge there. And so now if I hit play, we'll see that this allows it to rotate here, and we're good. Okay, so this is the final answer. Now I'm going to show you guys one cool thing afterwards, but we do, if you check it, that's spinning, right? We already said this guy's spinning, even though we can't really see it, just because of the graphics. And this guy is able to spin as well. So this is perfect. So now we're going to go to our mass properties. And if I just click on this, it's only giving me the mass properties of the hitch. So what I want to do is I want to do the mass properties of the entire assembly. I'm going to just kind of click all of it. Or I can also click, instead of that, I can click it and click on assembly 1. Right? So let's see if we can do that. Mass properties and just click assembly 1. That's going to get all of it. So you want 20104.6, right? And again, stay on because I'm going to show you guys kind of a cool thing afterwards. So 20104.6, and that's our right answer. Now, that is all we have to do, but I want to show us kind of a little bit of an extra thought process. Is, in real life, probably this is exactly how I would want it. Is I would probably, with my left hand, I'm a righty. With my left hand, I would hold the ball. And with my right hand, I would screw this nut and, they wouldn't move together. But let's pretend I did want them to be able to move together. So right now, if I move the nut, right, the ball isn't moving, right? And we can kind of zoom out to show that a little bit. If I'm rotating the nut, you guys can see that the nut is spinning, but my name up here on the top is not spinning. And if I spin the top, you can see my name is spinning, but the nut is not spinning. What if I wanted them to move together? Well, if I want them to move together, then I need to mate them together. So remember, the nut, we did a revolute with the actual hitch. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. And instead, I want to have the nut be, mated with the ball. And so just to help me out, I'm going to hide this guy so I don't have to, it doesn't get in my way. And this guy already does rotate. Okay, it already does rotate. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fasten, not revolute, but I'm going to fasten, kind of lock the nut in place with the ball. So I want to choose the top of this edge with the bottom of this edge. Now the problem is I don't want it here. I want to move it down, right? I want to move it down. And so we're going to use the offset to move it down. And we want to move it down in the Z direction. Now, right now, I'm not really sure how far it goes down. So I'm just going to pick -1. And, just kind of go ahead and click that. And it's right there. I did, on this one, forget to change my unit. So I fixed that right now. That was -1 inches. So really, it's like -25 millimeters. Or I'll just go like -50 for right now. -50 millimeters. So it just places it down here somewhere. I don't know how far down it is. I just kind of placed it down. But now I can see when I have that fastened together, if I spin the ball, the nut's spinning with it. If I spin the nut, the ball is spinning with it because they're fastened together, and this ball is allowed to revolve. So then that works. So I'm going to view my hitch again, right-click it, and show it. And I want to lock the nut right there. And there's kind of a cool thing is this tool to the left of mask properties is a measuring tool. So I can measure that side. That side is 30 millimeters long. So what I want is I want this offset to be offset by going down by 30 millimeters. And then that will place it right where it needs to be. And so now we can see is if I rotate the nut, then the ball rotates with it. And if I rotate the ball, the nut rotates with it. So again, that wasn't actually part of this assignment, but it's just something that I think is really cool for us to know and for us to kind of think about is how can we even take these simpler mate features and make them do even more advanced, complex assignments to where I'm spinning this and this guy spins, right? And eventually we could even have something where potentially you spin the latch and everything spins with it, and that's even one step more advanced.